माच्छारिपुत्र अत्रातित्वादबोधिसत्त्वस्य प्रज्ञापारमितामाश्रित्य विहरति चित्तावरणः चित्तावरणास्तित्वाद्रस्तो विप्रति शान्तिक्रान्तो.
Firstly, I want to say good morning, hello. Okay. Indeed, I'm very happy at this place, at the family. Almost 3 generations. Now, picture there. Here, so we have some close friendship. Our friendship mainly in the field of education and spirituality, not business or some other motivation. Simply, human beings, I think different sort of organs. The one unique thing about a human being is this brain. So therefore, different species of mammals, I think we human beings develop this language because of this brain, and eventually script. So with that, just I mentioned when I met the young student or Bharat, this country, over 3,000 years, say, investigate what is the reality behind these appearances. So over 3,000 years, this is a serious investigation. What is the reality? So, with that, within this country, you see, many different schools of thought develop. So, because of that tradition, Mahavira, the founder of Jainism. And after that, Buddha Shakyamuni. Then since Buddha start certain sort of teaching on the basis of ancient Indian sort of knowledge about truth, appearances, and deeper level of reality. So therefore, India's tradition is really, I think, recently, I also, you see, thinking the Egyptian civilization and the Indian civilization and the Chinese civilization. Among these 3 civilizations, I think Indus Valley is also the civilization. Eventually, I think, produce a lot of thinkers, including Buddha, Mahavira. These, I feel, great thinker. I usually describe Buddha Shakyamuni, one aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, of course, founder of Buddhism. One aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni was great thinker and great philosopher. He developed see, the concept of now in modern science, they say quantum physics, he developed. So he sort of thought about quantum physics, about the reality. Nothing independently exists. So later, Nagarjuna expand that. So in any way, then one aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni was, I consider, great ancient Indian scientist. Why? I usually is describing. Buddha himself, you see, told his follower, "O my follower, bhikshus and scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." I think among great teachers of this world, I think Buddha, I think maybe unique. You see, don't believe my teaching out of faith, but investigate, experiment. So he emphasizes importance of investigation and experiment. So I consider Buddha from that aspect, Buddha considered as an ancient Indian scientist. Like that. So, some great scholar of Nalanda, they reject some of Buddha's own teaching. If you accept this Buddhist sort of teaching literally, it goes against reason. So we should not accept this. We should reject. So Nagarjuna and Buddha Balida, of course, and then Chandrakirti clearly mentioned about 10 books about Buddha's own teaching. These 10 books you cannot literally accept. Like that. So therefore, according to Buddhist tradition, particularly the Nalanda tradition, reason, experiment is the key sort of element to investigate what is the reality. Therefore, the great logician like Dignac and Dharmakirti and also Shantarakshita, they wrote very thick book about logic, because investigation is so important. So when we investigate, mainly you see through the logical way. Therefore, this logic very, very important. So they, among the Nalanda master, they wrote, or say they specifically for logic, like that. So that's about Buddha. So I also used to follow the Nalanda tradition. I study since childhood some of the writing of Nalanda master. Memorize and explanation by teacher according commentary wrote by Nalanda masters, like that. So I often used to telling people, when I carry study, my age 7, 8, like that, I have no interest. It's a very, very reluctant study these things. I just play and sometimes drawing.
Drawing.
Oh,
That is drawing.
drawing. I love drawing like that. Yeah. They study these difficult texts. They say, of course, you cannot understand easily, so therefore I have no interest. But gradually,
Begin it.
correct?
Ludo is dying.
Oh, you have something.
You know.
Huh?
Do you have a program?
사살 말해. 사살 봐. 가. You have some prayer? No. Okay. Okay. The other day, I think 2 days in Dharamsala, this is some sort of meeting with students, scholars. At the beginning, quite long, sort of was a prayer or some songs. I appreciate very much, but one corner from my mind, oh, waste of time. So then I realized, I think my age, I think 13, 14, then I start practice. And meantime, age 16, I lost my freedom. Then age 24, we lost our own country. Then during these period, there's certain sort of knowledge which we learned become very, very useful. I think firstly, they keep our mind more sharp. So sharp mind not easily follow emotion. Faith can easily manipulate by emotion. But logical approach, difficult, exploit by emotion. When certain emotion come, we always analyze why. Then most of the emotion, such as anger, anger comes attachment and self-centered attitude. So analyze why so much sort of
Emotion. Disturbance.
No, attachment. Why? Anger. Why? Then no sufficient reason. Because you see, these destructive emotion ultimately based on ignorance. Ignorance, no found sound basis. All just mental exaggeration. Now some scientists also say that. So therefore, their logics very useful. Logics now, 패지다 디소리도가 대 따고
No.
따고 쭉 소리지.
So logic is like a rein to control the horse, wild horses.
Emotion come, but then logical approach, very, very useful. So therefore, these Nalendra master, they, particularly the Sanskrit tradition, very much emphasis on reason. So, when I come sort of close with sort of modern knowledge about the world, This world is round, not flat, and huge differences, size of sun and moon. And then no Mount Meru. Some of our sort of practitioners, they 100,000 times offering Mandara, and in the center Mount Meru, and sun and moon go like that. So when Apollo
Apollo
11 land on moon, some picture you see come out. Then I show one of my friend, great scholar, good practitioner, show this is the picture of a moon, some rocks there. So then he respond to me, oh, this may be some part of Mount Meru. Mount Meru is some part, you see, some rocks. So therefore, he mentioned like that. So then I found quite foolish. Good scholar, but you see, based more on the text, not reasoning. So following Nalanda tradition, no problem. 샤자로 통은 다들 그런 유노마도 중에 내식만에 샤자로 통은 줄 중세 고줄 신도 고줄 샤자네 숨체 다 통은 줄 무슨 세매 그게 시해야지 아니 중세 고줄 제바 세매 샤체 신도 고줄 이지 제바 당는 거야 디셰도가 그래서 지 제바 리디디 아니 타르 무슨로 또 그랬어. 타르 녀로 또 그랬어. 그래서 댄시 거니 그게 주인도잖아요. 털돌디 간다 녀랑 또 그거. 자상가 제방 로단디 로는 시레스. 아니 로규 직신 타르 미영의 직인 티알 땡고래서 되는시 제방 로규래스. 드리인도 타르 녀로 또는 무슨로 또 그랬어. 어떻게 얘기하래. 자 드리인도 간다이니 지금 리베 주야디디 그게 간다 그게 주저디 주야디 콜 주저 꼭주이네 디고도 스파 리리단 주인도잖아 터도디 간다 영원히 또 가야지 책도 서들이 인도 나렌데 슝기 도단디 사마리면 도단디 쉐보지 되샤 서들이 당을주다.
So with regard to the objects of knowledge, there are three, which are called the manifest objects, and then slightly hidden objects, and then extremely hidden objects. And so with regard to these three objects, the manifest objects, the things which are obvious to our senses, are said to be the objects of, and can be known through our perceptions. A direct perception, as it's called. And then the second type of knowledge, the slightly hidden ones, are said to be known through inferential cognition using logic, so that you come to a conclusion by using logic that this is it. And then this is the kind of logic based on evidence. And then there is a third type. This third type of an object of knowledge is, you know it through reference or resorting to some scriptural, authoritative statements. And so,
I think another word, the third
third object of knowledge, the extremely hidden one.
That finally relying on third person who experienced that. Only, you see, his or her word through their own sort of experience, then they sort of experienced. So that kind of nyong do you debe any 강사 숨버디 나래야 다 땡과지.
So this third type of object of knowledge could be understood through testimonies of people who have the experience of them. And therefore, now what I'm trying to say here is that even when you use logic to infer the slightly hidden phenomena or those of the extremely hidden phenomena, you need finally to get to your experience of these objects. And so it is the analogy that is used here with regard to logic is said that logic is like a blind person, and a blind person can be led to his or her destination by someone who has sight, and therefore the experience itself, the direct experience, is like the person leading the blind person. So in other words, all these logical conclusions should finally get back to or should be developed. Your understanding and knowledge should be developed through your experience, and therefore the Nalanda monastic institution tradition of using logic extensively and is very, very amazing.
다 다른 식 지금 좀더 다네. 말한도 로레 지다 가다 미시베 왕기 르 다네 지 여도 되디 파 연나 애니 참에 미고라 참에 몸에 미치스다 가다 연나 다른 식 연은 낭도 롱와라 애니 미나메 치르자 딘데기 토네 파 거기도와 간다 참아를 거디 시우지 수 주야다 애니 그게 간다 딱제 이가로 했다 그러나 탔어야 돼 참아를 그 시우지 계셔 버리셔 참면로다한테.
So, through in certain philosophical traditions, they assert things through by using reason, of course. But then there are certain statements or certain assertions which can be refuted through logic, and so therefore, within those of logic, there are these logics which are termed as like if somebody says this, there is such and such thing, and such and such thing exists, and you want to refute that, you need to reason out that if it is something that exists, it should be perceptible or known to our consciousness, cognition, because it cannot be perceived or cognized by our perception, the correct perception. Therefore, this does not exist. And similarly, it is the case with refutation through this kind of logic, where it says that if it does exist, it should appear to our senses or perceptions. Since they do not, the thing does not appear to our senses, perceptions. Therefore, it cannot exist. So in this way, we can use logic to refute positions of others.
간단 낭배성은 나라다 가로 간다다 능지 뒤승구도와 지금 아주 네번 제부 아주 네제리디 망체 가다 참여 잡된 과시니 자 진짜 인도산에 간다 참여 제부를 시행하래 그러다 찬제신 다 가다 시행 뒤담버다와 지 간다 말한저 네번 된다 가리 있는 뒤 가다다 들이 가다 거인에서 투부지 하는 로까지 realistic. So any sort of thing which we want and to approach that, or our effort should be realistic. In order to carry realistic approach, we should know the fuller knowledge about the reality. 제가 드린 인도 안다 체면 제우식도 와. 아주 대자 좀전 담바 디디 고 체면 제우식도.
So in the logical text, it's mentioned that the things that we want to achieve, when those can be achieved by as a result of our correct perception and correct knowledge of them, and therefore those results are said to be the product of the valid knowledge.
So therefore, logic very important. and eating biscuit is even more important than logic. So now, firstly, I want to tell you that those subjects which I study, eventually I found very useful. So when we came to India as a refugee, our main concern is how to protect, how to preserve this knowledge. With immense help from Government of India, led by Jawaharlal Nehru, Pandit Nehru, and of course full blessing from Rajendra Prasad and Radha Krishna. Oh, Rajendra Prasad, really wonderful, first Indian president. Wonderful. When I sit together, you see his sort of physical, some kind of sort of feeling from his physical. Nehru not like that. But you see, more detailed discussion about Tibetan issue, these things, Pandit Nehru, oh, wonderful, wonderful. So then, firstly, since large number of Tibetan refugees, about 100,000, so resettlement, and then the number of monk students, about a few thousand. So, because our main concern is how to preserve these things, so therefore, we ask Indian government, these monk scholar or monk student, you see, need some special arrangement for carry further study like that. So, in 6 days, 7 days, our main concern is how to preserve this knowledge. Then 73, I had opportunity to visit Europe, many European countries. Then 79, visit, then Soviet Union. Then same year, visit America. Sort of meeting a lot of people, scholars, psychologists, many scientists, and the overall the society situation. Gradually, I found, in spite material development, highly developed, people's mind, lot of problem, anxiety, stress, these raw emotion, very, very strong. Then observe world situation. A lot of sort of problem which we are facing is essentially our own creation. Yet, 7 billion human beings, nobody want problem. And more important, now some scientists say, basic human nature is more compassionate. And our own experience, you see, we all, 7 billion human beings, come from one's own mother. All survived with mother's love. Mainly mother and parent, some other relatives, like that. So then, now many scientists say, constant anger, constant hatred, actually eating our immune system. So, more compassionate mind, our physical condition much better. Therefore, we can clearly mention some of the emotion is destructive emotion. Not only destroy peace of mind, but also destroy our health and destroy our friendship, destroy of happy family, like that. So, certainly we can describe this emotion is destructive emotion. And some emotion brings inner peace. So, now we, as a social animal, you see, we need friend. The friendship entirely depend on trust. Trust come if you show them affection, sincerely, sense of concern of their well-being, then trust come. Trust cannot buy, or trust cannot develop by force. So, warm-heartedness, really the foundation of trust. Without trust, you cannot develop genuine friendship, friendship. We are a social animal. We need friends. Friendship is very important. So in our today's world, that part is lacking. Why? Existing education system is something lacking. Education system, materialistic education, modern education, oriented about material value. So we can say existing education is very much materialistic oriented.
No.
So people who come through that kind of education eventually create their whole life more materialistic life. With that, materialistic culture. So whole society come from that. They don't know how to tackle our destructive emotion about to come. So the destructive emotion have complete freedom. There's no way to check. So complete freedom. So the destructive emotion, I think now today's world, a lot of our own created problem, actually because of destructive emotion. So then I realized my first visit to Europe, I used the word sense of global responsibility. That's altruism. Take care about others' well-being. World becomes smaller, and the future of world heavily interdependent. So according to that reality, it is old way of thinking, just my nation, my country. But we should think a sense of global responsibility. That 73, I start using that word. So then gradually, I found all those knowledge about our emotion, usually I call map of emotion, and then how to tackle this emotion. You say, tackle means, you say, how to strengthening constructive emotion, how to reduce destructive emotion. So that's the proper way to tackle our emotion. So then I felt, the knowledge which we carry from Nalanda tradition, mainly since 8th century, Shanta Rakshita introduced Nalanda tradition. over 1,000 years, we seriously study these things. So then I realized now, knowledge which we kept now may have some sort of, what's the potential, some ability, some potential to share troubled world. However, since then, I always carry these sort of ancient Indian sort of thought, Indian knowledge. So I describe myself as a messenger of ancient Indian thought. However, in West, they have their own sort of cultural heritage. Every nation's cultural heritage very much related with belief, or beliefs or spiritual tradition. The West, Judo-Christian background. So according to Judo-Christian background, theistic religion, the emphasis is faith, single-pointed faith. But that's good. We all are creature of God, or Allah, or some other God. So from that viewpoint, we all actually brothers and sisters and all children of God. That concept very, very powerful. If you seriously take this concept, then killing each other, human being, among human beings, killing each other, bully each other, impossible. We all children of God. We all brothers and sisters. And our Father, God, also, you see, infinite love. So we all have this sort of, some kind of seed of love there. So we must preserve that seed and we must sort of increase that. And according sort of the theistic religion, the whole body created by God, something like copies of God's own sort of body or something.
In the image of God.
So in any way, I think our brain and seed of warm-heartedness is the gift of God. If you seriously believe God and follow as God's children, follow according to God's sort of path, wonderful. So, the theistic religion emphasis on faith. Now in India, over 3,000 years, you see different, as I mentioned there, to the students. This country,
No.
tradition,
No.
the Central Valley is got a Indus Valley sort of tradition, the emphasis on investigation. So the concept of truth, appearances, and reality. Sanskrit Jilabda. Damani.
Nice. These Indian traditions mention the two truths, which are in Sanskrit called Samvriti Satya and conventional truth, and Paramartha Satya, the ultimate truth.
Oh. So that means, ancient Indian sort of, also the Indians raise question, why? So then, the appearance is just appearance. There must be another level of reality. So reality, according appearances, and reality, the deeper nature. So truth concept, this truth, you see, develop. The Sangha philosophy also, you see, carry according to these truth. And then a Jain philosophy and Buddhist philosophy, truth. So the investigation. I think among these different sort of tradition, Indian tradition, I felt really much more sophisticated. I think last week at Dharamsala Harba, one occasion was the celebration, Gandhi and Buddha. So I told there, both Buddha Shakyamuni and Gandhi, nothing you see special individual, but they implement ancient Indian knowledge of ahimsa and karuna. So before Buddha come, this country already the concept of ahimsa and karuna already there, and shamatha. So Buddha, 6 years he carried meditation, deeper meditation. So because already there in this country, the tradition of these sort of was a contemplative contemplation about our mind, these things already there. So Buddha, great. Modern time, Mahatma Gandhi, also great. But these are production of Indian cultural heritage, like that. So then I told there, if we just, you see, praising Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi as an individual, we cannot be Mahatma Gandhi, we cannot be Buddha, of course, through eons we can become Buddha. But within this lifetime, you see, impossible. But since these two great persons, production of Indian culture, Indian tradition, so we are Indian. So we have the ability, opportunity, you see, to follow, to study, to practice, to implement, then we can be not 100% like Buddha or Gandhi, but 50%, 60% we can be. Okay. I mentioned that, like that. So therefore, Indian tradition, then I realized, oh, now this tradition is something not only ancient one, but also very relevant to today's world. I think everywhere, you see, the word of peace, always there. That, I think, now, genuinely, because of nuclear threat, too much violence. So I think east, west, south, north, everywhere, I think desire for peace is really now growing very, very strong. But you see, how to develop peace? Release few pigeon. Nonsense. And then carry some slogan, peace, peace, world peace. Peace must come through inner peace. So therefore, now ancient Indian tradition, which tackle our emotion, that's the proper way to bring inner peace. Then through inner peace, world peace come. So in this country, you see these sort of techniques to transform our emotion. These are come from religious source. But we should we should take these things as an academic subject, not a religious matter. So now today's world, I think firstly, out of 7 billion human beings, 1 billion non-believer. And among 6 billion supposed believer, but believe different traditions. So we cannot, take these as is part of religious practice. These come from Indian tradition, Hindus, Jains, and Buddhists. But these you should take separately as an academic subject. These days, I'm mentioning that these things, hygiene of physical, we already sort of study. So, most important part of hygiene of the physical is hygiene of emotion. It's very important. So we can say, while we study in education, how to take care about our physical health. Similarly, we should include education about our emotion, healthy emotion, like that. So take as a academic subject, not a religious subject, so that our tradition can reach those over billion non-believers also. And here in India, again, traditionally, secular. Secular means respect all religion and also respect non-believer. It's wonderful, wonderful. So therefore, now the tradition which we preserve, now I have full conviction, can make some contribution regarding well-being of humanity. So materialistic sort of way of life brought physical health, physical comfort. That's not adequate. A lot of killing. Now, this very moment we enjoy here, very peaceful. But meantime, thousands of people killing by human being. Now these days, when I wake up morning, I usually 9 hours sleep. So I really feel, 9 hours, I have sound sleep, peace. But same period, 9 hours, how many people dying due to starvation, especially children. In Yemen, and some Muslim community in from Burma. Very sad. And Syria, this area. When we saw picture of these dying children due to negligence, sometimes tears come. That's now today's world. If you feel, or another person next to yourself dying, not due to natural sort of causes, but negligence from rest of the community, we cannot bear. I think if, for example, now here, one person fell down, you cannot remain like this. We are same human being. We are social animal. If someone dying, we must help. So now thinking these, especially children, maybe those troublemaker may be different. But these children, innocent, really, dying. Because we are lacking of, oneness, or sense of oneness of human being. Karuna, no national boundary, no religious boundary. Even not only human being, but all sentient being, we keep sense of concern of their well-being. That's Karuna. So now India's tradition, ahimsa, very much based on Karuna. So now that is, I think now, not only ancient sort of message of India, but today's world very, very relevant. So therefore, in order to share with humanity these deeper value, and firstly, must revival within the country. Now in this country, now this morning when I come from my hotel up to here, a lot of poor people. Although you see the gap rich and poor everywhere, even China, socialist country, now huge gaps rich and poor, and a lot of corruptions. Now here in this country, also you see huge gap, rich and poor. Very sad. So now we have to take serious care, mainly through education. So now existing education, as I mentioned earlier, modern education not adequate to bring compassionate human being, compassionate society. So now here we must add from ancient Indian tradition, karuna, ahimsa, and India's secular concept also related with karuna, respect them, even respect a non-believer. So now India's education should include about these, how to tackle our inner world, strictly secular way, not religious way. I fully committed now, since last now more than 10 years, we seriously thinking how to make a contribution from our knowledge, which originally come from India. So now at this moment, I think I also asked some Tibetan scholars who also speak English, and some maybe Hindi, like that. So this is also an opportunity to discuss. Not everyone. You see, those people who have some work regarding in education field, then we need some serious discussion. Now we already have some draft about curriculum, how to introduce. With help of Emory University, we already have some material. You see, I'm hoping this is some serious discussion. So my talk only morning. Afternoon, I just go like that. So some young Tibetan scholars, I especially asked them, come here. So more serious discussion. And then after that, with small group, some serious discussion about now how to introduce in modern India this knowledge in academic field. Okay. I think you should participate. Now as I mentioned earlier, 3 generations. When I first came, this also, I think, young person, now bolded. So sometimes when I met some long time my friend, their face much change. So that reminds me, now I also now quite old person. So that also sometimes I feel some sort of hurry, feeling of hurry. Hurry.
It hastens.
Now, 82-year-old, now my physical condition, year by year, now feeling of tiredness increasing. Now maybe next 10 years I can be active and then no longer. So time is running. So these we are thinking, not one generation, but generations, the 21st century. And then if we properly create some new shape, more compassionate humanity, then 22nd century, 3rd century, 4th century will be happy centuries. Otherwise, this present situation, killing, starvation, this goes continuously. I think if there is Creator, then I'm going to pray. I'm going to, because of the pray to God. Now, since you created this world, now you should eliminate this whole world. Really feel. So now, future is our own hand. The beginning of 21st century. If we make some effort with vision and systematic method, I think later part of after 20 years, 30 years, I think a new generation of human being will come, will produce. So then this 21st century can be peaceful century, compassionate century. Eventually, like India, really union. When I visit South India, Tamil language, Malayalam language, and East Bengali, and Oriya, and some other, Assamese like that, and the West, Gujarat, and Punjabi, in Korea, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, like that. So you see, a different part of India, different language, different script, but all remain within the union of India. I think this, because of 1,000-year-old India's tradition, I think union of India, 47, you see, can develop, maintain. Similarly, after World War, Second World War, European Union developed. So eventually, I really feel now we have to develop union of Africa, union of Latin America, and eventually union of Asia. That means big two nations, India, China, and Japan. Some kind of union. I think for the time being impossible. But we should keep in our mind. So I usually, what's it called? Doglam somewhere. Doglam. Some sort of problem with Chinese soldier in Doglam. The number of occasions, the Indian media asked me, and then I told them, this very small. Basically, neither India nor China, no ability to destroy other. So whether you like it or not, you have to live side by side. That's the reality. So eventually, because of that reality, eventually we should think Hindi chini bye-bye. That's the only way. You see, hostile attitude and spend a lot of money while many villagers remain poor. Waste of money, waste of time. Similarly, China also. There are millions of poor people there. Instead of spend a lot of money for weapon in order to keep these soldiers. Really waste. And America, nuclear weapon. Russia, nuclear weapon. Poor North Korea, small country, they also want to be a nuclear-powered nation. It's their right. We cannot say bigger nations have certain right to keep weapon, including India. The smaller nation, no right. That's also difficult to say. I think one day we should make effort. Now, I think 2 years ago, one Nobel laureate meeting, originally in South Africa, and then because of the government find difficult, allowed me there. So then, the organizer, they shifted the venue to Rome. So we discussed, and I told them, I expressed, now we not just sufficient to say, eventually, because of the world should be free nuclear. No, just to repeat that is not sufficient. Now we must make timetable. Within 2 years, within 5 years, we must start elimination all these nuclear weapons. So recently, I think one correct
USIP.
one also used to get Nobel Peace Prize. Karsa di mindi. Ka.
International campaign against
Ka.
international campaign against nuclear war.
Oh, they also now got some kind of recognition from Nobel Peace Committee, like that. So now, the community level, public level, I think we should start some movement. Recently, I met Obama. During his sort of presidency, you see, he also mentioned, the nuclear weapon should limited and eventually free. So I told him with some emotion, now I'm old, getting older. He comparatively younger. So please, you should carry this work continuously after me. I told him like that. So therefore, I think firstly it's a nuclear weapon. I think because of the reduce and then finally eliminate. Then eventually all weapons, firstly offensive weapon should eliminate. And then gradually whole world demilitarize. Then eventually the political boundary, I think also solves a problem, isn't it? So, I think boundary with Pakistan or Bangladesh, eventually, I think, and then bring more Pakistanis and also one Indian go there. Like that, as well as Bangladesh, like that. I really feel. A few years ago, in California, the governor, Jerry Brown, one occasion, you see, he told me, from space, when we look world, no national boundary, just one world of human being. Now time come, I think we should think oneness of humanity. And this national boundary is almost source of problem. Oh, then now this first part, you see, you Indian now should pay more attention about ancient Indian knowledge. India is the only nation who have the ability and opportunity to combine modern technology, modern knowledge, modern education, modernity, plus ancient Indian knowledge, how to bring inner peace. Combine this is a physical comfort as well as mental comfort. So that's, I think, out of about 200 nations, I think only India can do that. No other country. Okay, now break. Tea, break.
I don't think I understand compassion, and can you please elaborate it for all of us? What is compassion?
Yes, now, compassion. Actually, I think seed of compassion is our appreciation of mother's love. That is seed of compassion. Then that's a biological factor. We are social animals. And especially, we come from our mother. Without mother's love, mother will not take care. Then we will not survive. So that's a biological factor. Now, because of that, you see, everyone who appreciates love also have the ability to show other love. Now that biological factor, that is biased love and very much oriented about others' attitude. That kind of love cannot extend your enemy, so-called enemy. Now, however, that biased, limited love take as a seed, then use our intelligence, as I mentioned before. Analyze what is use, anger, what is usefulness about love. Then, with the help of human intelligence, reasoning, that love now extend more like unbiased, not oriented about others' attitude, but themselves. Even, battery,
They do.
Okay. So, our sort of biased love is more or less mixed with attachment. That, because you see, their attitude towards me nice, they are helpful to me. So that attachment, that develop love towards them. That's biased. Now someone creates problem for you, we usually call enemy. So that, since their attitude is negative towards me, we develop anger and cannot extend our love. Now, genuine altruism, love is now, regardless what is their attitude, but still, you see, these people as our brothers, sisters, and furthermore, these also part of sentient being. They want happiness, do not want suffering. Everyone has the right to be happy, to achieve happiness. So therefore, on that basis, with help of human intelligence, now extend that limited love, now unlimited, unbiased, that's genuine love. That through training, now like the 6th chapter, 8th chapter, mainly 8th chapter, mentioning. He even mentioned our enemy is real teacher of patience. without patience, without tolerance, you cannot develop infinite love. Therefore, enemy is our real teacher. So instead of anger, we must appreciate, right? Appreciate, like that. Now almost I think all together. Then perhaps one more question.
Greetings, Your Holiness. It's a true honor to ask you this question and have your blessed presence here.
One lady here. Huh? Where?
Joku.
What of?
Mama ki jablo de magi.
Oh yes.
Greetings, Your Holiness. It's an honor to be able to ask you this question, and I want to make it very brief. In the beginning of your discourse, you spoke that Lord Buddha, the Blessed One, spoke of quantum physics and the non-independent existence of everything, i.e. the universal unity of everything. We also know that it resonates with the philosophy of non-dualism, Advait, and as well as the what is called Wahdat in the Judeo-Islamic systems. So science has also proven today that we are all from the same ancestors, and we are all made of, the whole universe is all made of the same stuff, essentially. So knowing all these things, how is it that we still do not find a way towards true peace, whether inner or outer? And do you think that is there a way really to address the larger humanity about this great oneness, and that how we can merge with it? Thank you very much, Your Highness.
Yutte naji quantum physics da quantum physics sama chomden de somba de sama chilu shimpale somba trabu tubus kana tanda di nime tanda di karsa rikje thaba da tende ki shema den so trabu tu ne dinzu sheba ta nyamdo samuli na la shidi tablam ya buchi tanda ya chi tsama ge de chi to minus anti tola chi tsama chikyur mi chikyu ge tu she yong ya da di chi di contest to chi wenas.
I feel basically, including animal, I think insects, they want peace. Oh. You see, they all have some kind of feeling of I, self there. So small sort of insect, worm, worm. When I was very young, I really afraid worm. So sometimes I describe my previous life, maybe worm. So, so even worm, looks as a very tiny brain, right? But if you touch, they immediately, because they protect themselves, loves oneself. And then everyone want peace. So then harming them is something like if someone harm you, you unhappy. So with that experience, from that experience, we don't harm any insect, any human being. So that's some kind of expression of our love towards them. So irrespective what form of life and kasakorda. Now here, animal, insect, no religion, but just simply since they want peace, so they have right remain peaceful. So we don't create any disturb to them. So now here, the philosophical views, not much so relevant. Now in human being, in order to strengthening that sort of feeling, taking and don't harm other, use different philosophy. Some say all created by God. One Muslim brother told me, a genuine Muslim must extend our love towards entire creature of Allah. So use different philosophy. So different philosophical views are, a method to strengthening these basic sort of feeling of love or don't disturb other. That's my view. So different philosophy isn't relevant because since I think over 4,000 years, people are different mental disposition, so we need different way of approach to promote these inner value. Now very clear among this follower of Buddha, because different mental disposition. So in Nalanda tradition, at least 4 major different school of thought: Vibhashek, Saudantik, Chittamantra, and Madhyamika. Within each, there are different sort of philosophical views, because among the follower of Buddha or a practitioner of Nalanda tradition, there are different mental disposition. Therefore, different philosophical views develop. Like medicine, in order to cure illness, because of the condition of that person, including age, so just one medicine will not sufficient. Need a variety of medicine according their physical condition. Like that. Now, lady.
Thank you. I am aware of theologies like Samatha, Metta, Upekha. In spite of this, what do I do? What actions should I take in order to develop my wisdom during my day-to-day life? And though I agree and accept that Buddhist philosophy is a lot of scientific, I'm somehow not getting convinced in the reincarnation aspect of Buddhism. So these are the two. Thank you.
Main question is, I think one part of Sangha philosophy, no creator, so life, no beginning. And Jainism also. Karsa, so sarve. So instead.
Jiva.
No. Ka.
Jiva.
Ka.
Jiva.
And then Buddhism. I think most of the tradition who use analytical analyzation. You see, the matters also you see cause. Cause, there are two, substantial cause and
cooperative
conditions. So, for example, this body, this because of the composition of particle. So, the substantial cause of each particle. See, when Big Bang take place, already, you see, the substantial cause of my physical part already there. So the Big Bang, also you see, there must be cause. So the Big Bang, as is was the result of tremendous pressure. So these pressure come again from particle. So these particle, no beginning. So therefore, from the Buddhist viewpoint, the one Big Bang, what's the theory of just one Big Bang? You see, that is difficult to say. The limitless. The Abhidhamma Kosha Karika also is mentioned. The there is a period, the empty period. Then gradually, the combination of these particles. Then gradually, there is 5 elements from the space. Space, there are also, you see, we say the particle of space. Space particle. So space particle is the basis of creation of energy, heat, liquid, then solid. That's the way world formed. Then eventually, solid dissolve, or liquid, or heat, or then energy, then finally empty. Empty space, like that. So therefore, like physical element, no beginning, substantial cause is concerned, no beginning. So similarly, our consciousness, substantial cause must be same nature. So material thing, matters, never be substantial cause of consciousness. Cooperative condition, of course, the cells of organs, including brain, is cooperative causes. But substantial cause must be same nature of consciousness. That is the sort of reasoning, that's the way to reason. No beginning of consciousness. So on that basis, you see the concept of rebirth. Reincarnation, usually, you see, we described those sort of people, mainly, you see, children. They have clear sort of memory about past life. One young Tibetan, many years ago, I think maybe 1970s and 80s, I met one Indian girl, one from Vidyaloke, one from Kanpur, very young. They have very, very sort of memory about past life. They sort of recognize where they live in previous life. So they recognize their home and their past lives, parents, like that. Then another, these, I think, both cases, parent, not necessarily believer about these things, but child themselves express very clearly. Then one Tibetan boy, born in, I think, somewhere in Tibet, I think Lhasa, maybe Lhasa area. Di shingi we, and the Shazi, Lhasa
Student city.
or the Twin City la Yang City, Pyokanere, Tesserbe. Then, is from Lhasa. The child insists, this is not my home, go to India. Then they firstly came to Dharmasala. And that young child insists, this is not my place. My place is South India. Then reach South India. Then eventually, you see the young boy, you see, let two parents go Kandan monastery. And his previous house, now this is my room. In Chujinan, Marve, he expressed, one box, in box on his glass. Open that, yes, there's glass. So such things, you see, happen. So scientifically, it's so far, no explanation. Now some scientists now really showing genuine interest. So one particular scientist Now he already start one sort of project to particularly investigate those people who, firstly, remember past life, and then secondly, after breathing stop, clinically dead, heartbeat stop, no longer blood circulation to brain, then dead. But body remain very fresh. That I think last now more than 50 years. I think at least almost I think 30 more than 30 cases. Body remain very fresh. Next 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even one case 4 weeks. So scientists now cannot explain. The local clinical, so doctors, they test, now they describe that. But body still remain very fresh. So now some scientists showing interest, so already some sort of project. Like that. So these are phenomena. Sort of reasoning. Firstly, there are such people. Then reasoning is a continuation of mind. Now mind, there are grosser level of mind and more subtle level, innermost subtle level. When they do musician, they carry music, they say, while my eye consciousness still there, seeing these things, but my main mind go towards ear, music. Then again go something, eye consciousness, or biscuits, like that. So the main consciousness more or less independent. This sensorial consciousness is subordinate somewhere. Subordinate. Something like that. So the main consciousness is focusing, seeing, then combined with eye consciousness. The main consciousness, because mainly is concentrated on ear, hearing, go like that. So obviously, there are different level of consciousness or mind. Then awakened moment, all sensorial consciousness fully alert, fully active. During dreaming, no sensorial consciousness, but mental consciousness with dream. Then another level, deep sleep without dream, even deeper consciousness. So the deepest at the time of death, as I already mentioned, the brain already dead, but the physical still remain very fresh. That level of consciousness go next life, since it is not depend on our brain, this physical. So more or less independent. And we usually call subtle energy, something like energy, we call inner air. The quality to know, that is consciousness. Because of the ability to moving, to go there, that's energy, lung. So there are different levels, grosser level, more subtle level, and innermost subtle level. So now yoga practice, try to control, firstly, breathing. That's very gross. Then through that way, eventually control the subtle level of energy. So these are, also I think the basic sort of the explanation about rebirth or reincarnation. I have one sort of my friend, one Tibetan. His grandson, I recognize.像这些个人物的张伯吃住，性格没，这人物你让光芒没？
Mar, ceremony.
아, 설명 원 원. 장보 주주 지어르디. Jenny, I recognize his grandson, because of the reincarnation of that late Lama, 장보 Chitu. Because 장보 Chitu spent some time with that person. I think in many years ago. So then his son do not want do not want to recognize as reincarnation. And his son, I think, settled in America. So keep that grandson in America, not let go to India, like that. Recently, I met I said that grandfather, sorry.
Yes,
Grandfather. I asked him, what happened? Oh, then he told me his grandson, so while attending school in America, eventually he expressed, no, this is not my place. My place is India and Devu Monastery. The child is himself, you see, express. Then eventually, his father, Radha, you see, accept his grandfather's sort of view. So sent back to India, now join in Devu Monastery. Again, another sort of example. Recently, I met one Indian. He lived in America, study. Very healthy body, very wonderful sort of body. He told me he do not want to stay in America. He have some special sort of feeling, India. Then he asked me some questions about the concept of shunyata. So this also shows some sort of unconscious level, some sort of feeling of imprint of previous life. Then myself, when I was young, seems very clear about memory of past life. Then getting older, nowadays, even what happened yesterday, I can't remember. So when I met the 투덴스리라고 영시, 다 정상 되기도 있으면 증명도사, 다시는 내 로버레스래. 치주가 the savage. So when I met, you see that boy, who joined now Gandhar Monastery. Recently I met him. I asked him, nowadays, do you remember past life? He said no. Then I told him, glad I have now one friend. I myself, at very young age, some memory, but gradually all this memory gone, like that. So I really please another my companions, like that. Like that. Now, Krishna. Suppose now is the teaching of Buddha Dharma. One of the ancient Indian spiritual tradition, Buddha Dharma. According some scripture, the Buddha Shakyamuni was fourth Buddha on this, because one period, Namdi Shiva. Three previous Buddha, Kashaba Buddha, Khawajikare, Khawajikasa,
Kakuchandra.
Ka,
Kakuchandra.
Labda,
Kakuchandra.
Khawajik, Situ,
Kanaka.
Ka,
Kanaka.
I don't know. So, three previous Buddha, Khawajik, Situ, Vusung. Then fourth Buddha, Gautama Buddha. Although you say, the scriptures say the previous Buddha, the 40,000-year-old people remain 40,000, 60,000, 80,000. That I don't believe. But you see, the point, before Buddha Shakyamuni, there were some Buddha already happened. Next, more than 900 years, another 900 years. In the future, about more than 996 Buddha come. So I think the basic idea, I think there are some sort of point. The timing of this, I don't know. Like you see some Buddhist scripture, like Abhidhamma Shakarika is about Miru, and very detailed size and height, this nonsense. And then, so therefore, some, I think at that time, you see, public people, the popular way, is a certain sort of belief, certain sort of also the concept. So accordingly, I think these things, you see, I think mentioned. So in any way, this country, Buddhism, even before Buddha Shakyamuni, I think already this is some sort of connection already there. Then Buddha come. And he, at the time, he Kasota enlightenment at Bodh Gaya. Say, or the Masam Kasadi. So she tried to teach you.
No. So after becoming enlightened, the Buddha stated this verse where he says, this calm, profound, non-fabricated, uncompounded, clear light, which is like a nectar of Dharma. If I were to share it or teach it to others, nobody will understand it. Therefore, I will remain in the forest silent.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So, so he, I think, have maybe certain concept already there, and then have his own effort. You see, no, okay, no problem, okay. I think he, historically, he eventually, you see, determined to practice transformation of his own mind. The 6 years meditation, very little meal, like that. So then eventually he developed the deeper level of analytical meditation. He found no self. That concept, you see, wisdom, you see, eventually eliminate his because of the paksha, the basis of kalesh.
imprints, the seeds of glacier.
So then he become enlightened, all-knowing. Then he expressed this sort of a sentence. He realized certain deeper understanding, but no one is ready to listen. Then next, I think 49 days or something, he remained
Silent.
or silence or quiet. He didn't mention that. And then, like, go dinner, and
The five first human disciples of the Buddha.
And anyway, you see, suppose we have some Sanskrit scholar, but no one mentioned that. No one knows that. In any way, you see, there are 5 his sort of very close disciples. Then they, before, you see, they, during sort of 6 years, sort of fasting, then he no longer fasting. So at that time, some of them little sort of resented Buddha. But in any way, after his Buddha enlightened, then his physical condition also becomes something a little different. Then they asked him, "Oh, what? Now we want to listen. What is your deeper experience?" Then at Sanat, he taught the first Dharma wheel, the substance, the Four Noble Truths. Midaso Chajujuru.
And together with this the Four Noble Truths, he also taught the 16 aspects of them for each of the Four Noble Truths.
So that is the basis of Buddha's teaching. Four Noble Truths. The philosophical background is the interdependency, the philosophical view. Things depend on its own causes and conditions. So obviously, nobody, everybody want to overcome suffering. So according to his own experience, now there is possibility to overcome suffering, because suffering, it is own sort of causes. So there is tremendous, powerful sort of antidote of this ignorance. So there is possibility to eliminate causes of suffering. So dukkha, kunjung khasa, samudaya, then nirodha, mark. These Four Noble Truths. The suffering is a result. In order to eliminate suffering, we must eliminate the causes of suffering. That's the second truth. Then there is possibility to completely elimination of suffering, and due to elimination of suffering causes. So that's third Noble Truth, Nirodha. Then, when that is something possible, therefore, something reality, therefore the way to reach that, that's mark. So this is a concept based on law of causality. Suffering due to its own causes. The permanent sort of the cessation of suffering, also there's possibility like that. So then they, with that, of course, the three training, Shila, the physical sort of, as the wrongdoing,
To restrain.
restraint. And then mental attraction towards many things that eventually is the control. And mind, say, whatever you want to concentrate, mind follow as your wish without slightest distractions, right?
Distraction.
Distraction, right? That we call samadhi. Then that means channelize all energy of your mind, become very powerful. Now that concentrate, where is Atma? If you investigate, like quantum physics, the external thing, if you investigate, nothing exists objectively. So then shift that, where is observer? This body, not observer. Brain, also not observer. Self. This mind, also basis of the self. Still, not the self. So like that, investigate. You cannot find observer also. So external things independently exist. Observer also, you see, does not independently exist, right? Like that. And the chonanga and the Paji Tarana the Sung Mendo and the chonang dijori, so luchi. The Oshimisto, the Metawa the Soundant the year. Gume Rana Jenny Chisumati. Kasa Gume Rana Jenny. Temi Rigba Salala Chisuma Nangzimba. Did Nigalo, Dr. Zarina, Kenya Medoji, Jimmy Yinsu Talala. Ting on a lot of never in a, there was a chililis, Chikut.
So there is this verse from the Jonang tradition, which I find very evocative. So the verse says, with regard to the external phenomena, there is this illusion-like appearance of things, very clear called illusion-like appearances. And then with regard to the inner consciousness, it says there is this clear awareness which cannot be exhibited or shown. And then regarding both of these, the external phenomena, the objects as well as the subjective mind, it says both actually dissolve into this state of emptiness, which is inexpressible. And then finally it says, the great bliss kind of rolls on.
Except that biscuit I want, I love, so I enjoy. Now this I don't like, so give them. Because I like all this. So that's now clear explanation about Four Noble Truth. And the Ajaya and Nagarjuna. His teaching, Madhyamika Mulakkarika, 27 chapters. Oh, wonderful. I received sort of oral transmission, and I often used to read that, although did not sort of memorize. That really wonderful. If you really want to know more deeper way about Buddha's teaching, including shunyata, this book is really, I think, best book. Reading that book, study, thinking, and so every day and several times, that really affect my emotion. The basis of all destructive emotion is ignorance. There are different levels of ignorance. Ignorance. Ignorance.
So there's this ignorance which is clinging on to some kind of essential existence in things.
As I mentioned earlier, object also, you see, there must be some essence. You have the feeling. And observer also, there must be some independent entity. No. Entities. No. If you investigate, nothing. So, attachment, anger, all is based on that kind of wrong view, or there must be independent, self-independent sort of, or self and object like that. So the antidote, also all the destructive emotion based on that ignorance. So the only sort of antidote of that is not altruism, not prayer, not faith, but that wisdom to understand nothing independently exists. To some extent, according to my own experience, now over 60 years, I sort of thinking at that point seriously. And then last 40 years, I really thinking that some experience. So that really affect my emotion. Now I have some sort of experience. Gyumerana, that antakisa, Gyumerana Direla, that the Nawanazo, Chodu, Shinduna, Shizatewe, Niji Sasitong, Ludi Gyume, Damush, Tanada, Danomania, Tony Water, South Tata, Lingashit.
And so I get some kind of experience that things are like illusion, as I quoted the lines from Jorang tradition, and also this verse, which is an evocative verse from the seventh Dalai Lama. They kind of get the experience expressed in it, and so which says that in this crossroad, at the crossroad of the six perceptions of the six objects, there is this hazy kind of called appearance, which is deceptive.
So the Nagarjuna's led on your mom, Saber Tar, led on your mom, Namdole, the Germany, Tombani Gawa, you said that Tata Ludua.
So called and so to continue, I'm sorry, to continue with the previous verse, the seventh Dalai Lama says that do not, hang on to things having some grasp on to things having some kind of independent existence, but look at the empty nature of things. And so, in connection with this, Master Nagarjuna's verse from the Mula Madhyamaka Karika also.
Now mainly, the Madhyamaka Mulakarika's verses, led on your mom, Saber Tarvasati.
So it says through the elimination of karma and delusions, there is the liberation, and karma and delusions arise through this exaggerated outlook, and that in turn is rooted in this ignorance. This kind of fabricated and the exaggerated outlook also is rooted in this kind of exaggerated or elaboration or fabrication, and that fabrication can be done away with by emptiness.
This now, some scientists also now have the full because of the same view, such as anger. When we develop anger, the object appears very negative. But actually, 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. That's exactly Nagarjuna stated. So the basis of exaggeration is we sort of consider things there. Now recently I heard one article wrote by one Chinese quantum physicist in China. Now he mentioned the quantum physicist not just intellectually understand, but believe that, you see, their sort of view about the absolutism, or something like the good is extremely good, bad extremely bad. That kind of, how to say, the independent feeling is reduced. This is not necessarily believer, not necessarily, of course, not necessarily Buddhist, but as a quantum physicist, he exactly, you see, developed that kind of sort of understanding or view. That's Nagarjuna stated that. I have some desire to ask some my friend, some scientist, please you carry some sort of study or some observation. Those quantum physicists who believe, totally sort of believe nothing exists objectively, then their emotion might be some different. So I requested since many years. Now recently I heard the article wrote by one Chinese physicist in mainland China. So my recent meeting with some Chinese from mainland, from Taiwan, some physicists, some quantum physicists. I told them I want some meeting, quantum physicist, about, you see, the reality of nature. So more or less I decided, because of that, next year some sort of meeting, some Taiwanese quantum physicist, and then possibly some quantum physicist from mainland China and from India. We are going to have some sort of discussion. So like that. That is the now the main reason, the possibility of Nirodha now related with concept of shunyata. Shunyata does not mean nothing exists, but things exist due to other factor. So no independent existence. Now that, the second Dharma wheel at Rajagiri, you see, Buddha thoroughly explained that, and Panchaparamita Sutra. So now I have sort of recent years, I have some sort of meeting or some participation when I give some teaching, some Thailand. And so I also suggested to them, you see, it's worthwhile. The Pali tradition is the basis or foundation of Buddha Dharma. Now further sort of the wisdom side, the Sanskrit tradition is something useful. So I asked some, I suggested, say, in future, sort of some more discussions, these things. Because one occasion in Delhi, some group of scholars and some bhikshus also from Kasadimindi.
Sri Lanka. Thailand.
Oh, Thailand. Bangkok. Oh, Bangkok Buddhist University. They came. And we discussed about Four Noble Truths and 16 points and 37 sort of practice, these things. These are common. So we discuss. And then I asked them, when you explain, you see, these points mainly using Buddha's quotation, they say yes, without reasoning. And then the Dharmakirtis, the Pramana Vartika Karika, particularly second chapter, explain these Four Noble Truths or 16 sort of kasada aspects. You see, reasoning, through reasoning. So, the Sanskrit tradition, as I mentioned earlier, use logic and the reasoning. So it is very important. So that second Dharma wheel is actually explain detail or deeper way the possibility of Nirodha. Yeah. According to my own experience, you see, deeper understanding about, you see, the shunyata. And that immense help, you see, to realize subtle level of ignorance is no base, no valid. And then third Dharma wheel, particularly, then Dodi Kongji membership. Dodi Kongji Karsa.
Sandin Nimochana Sutra.
A third Dharma wheel, that mainly explaining about the Chitta Mantra philosophy. But there are some other also the Nyangde Ganto. Any Dishu Nimbundo.
There are other sutras like the Mahaparinirvana Sutra and also the Tathagata.
Dagaishikdo.
Another sutra is Dagaishi, which is the sutra taught at the time of just before dying.
So these, as the teaching, emphasis the subject side of clear light. Second Dharma wheel mentioned the object way, object clear light. That is shunyata. The third Dharma wheel, the subject clear light. So that's the basis of, you see, tantric practice. The special sort of effort to use subtle level of, as I mentioned before, use a subtle level of consciousness, like that. So Chakshin and Dzogchen, you see, mainly is related with that. So therefore, the Buddha's, you see, three Dharma wheels. Now, very important to study all three Dharma wheels of the teaching. Then, the commentary, Nagarjuna's commentary is best. And Maitreya Bodhisattva's, also the Abhisamaya Alankara, these two books are very, very important. Like that. So I think both texts available in original Sanskrit. Yamarbe. Sahasirabda, Niga Yorba. So the traditional Indian language, Sanskrit language, now these texts available. Like that. So, so then eventually Nalanda institution developed. And that institution really produced hundreds genuine scholars and practitioners. And then 8th century, the Tibetan emperor, you see, realized as far as Buddha Dharma is concerned, India is the original source. So he invited, at that time, because of the top, I think, scholar of Nalanda tradition, Shandarakshita, Bengali, he invited. And in spite his age, he accepted the invitation. Then he taught the Buddha Dharma according to Nalanda tradition. Then he himself, great logician, so he introduced logic. So for study, this Nalanda tradition extensively use reasoning. So we, since then, we Tibetan kept this knowledge. Firstly, memorize these root texts. As I mentioned this morning, I think,
That earlier.
earlier, I mentioned memorize with no interest, great because of the reluctance. These are very important sort of text. So since Shandarakshita introduced Buddha Dharma according to Nalanda tradition, now today, I think as far as Buddha Dharma is concerned, we Tibetan have the, I think, kept, I think, Nalanda tradition. The Chinese Buddhists also, you see, Lao Tzu, Tama Lao Tzu marwe, Jana Tango, Lao Tzu, right? Jana ne Denti Shungit, Jana Nangshu Denti Shungit Tangut.
Fashion.
So the Chinese also, you see, follower of Nalanda tradition. They're like the Sanskrit, I mean, like the Kasati. Madhyamaka Mulakarika, these texts, I think even before, I mean, Tibetan translation, Chinese translation already there. So still, these texts available in Chinese old translation. But the problem is, they not much pay attention for rigorous study. So one occasion in Japan, one my sort of respected as a great friend, one Japanese Buddhist abbot, wonderful. See, he once told me, all Japanese Buddhists recite the Paramita Sutra Shindaya, Marbe, Shirunibu, Heart Sutra. Every Japanese Buddhist recite that, but without knowing the meaning. Then he told me, my explanation about that book is very useful. He told me like that. So, even among Tibetan also, you see, the Heart Sutra, I think every monastery recite that, but unless you pay special attention for study, at least 20 years, otherwise it's difficult to understand. So I think now today's world, among nearly, I think, billion Buddhists, previous, I think 80s, 70s, then some of my friend, Indian friend, they told me the Catholic population about billion, the Muslim little bit less billion, but nearly now billion. Then Hindu about 800 millions, Buddhist about 200-300 millions. Now recently, now in China, one Chinese university carried survey, that's about 4 years ago, how many Buddhists in China. Then they found over 300 millions Buddhists there. Now since then, many Chinese told me now Buddhist number much increased. So now around 400 millions. Then Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand is. So maybe now nearly 1 billion Buddhists. But then only among them, I think the Tibetan tradition is the only sort of Buddhist who study these at least 20, 30 years. Like that. So usually I teasing my Indian friend. Originally, all this knowledge from Nalanda, come from Nalanda. So you are truly our guru, our teacher. We are chela. Truly reliable chela. You know? While Guru's own land, as far as Nalanda tradition, is too much ups and downs, during this period, we kept all this knowledge intact. So we are quite, we can say we are quite a reliable chela. Isn't it? So reliable. So now, the traditional chela of India now become guru. The traditional, our guru, now remain more ignorant, like that. So therefore, now it is our duty to return back to our traditional, our guru. So this not necessarily as a Buddhist, but academic subject. As I mentioned earlier, like quantum physics, and also psychology, how to transform our emotion. These are, as an academic subject, I think really worthwhile to study these things, not just reading book once or 10 times or 100 times, not sufficient. Each word, study, thinking. And commentary, best commentary, firstly, Buddha Palita. His commentary, wonderful. And then Chandrakirti's commentary. And then also the Javaskasagri.
Commentary.
20s, no?
Commentary of the meaning.
No, there's Madhumika Avadara, Umajuga, like that. So these are very useful. I think since my mind always skeptical, I love reason. Without proper reason, sufficient reason, I can't sort of believe. So anyway, I think I'm on hardliner of Buddhist. So since this person really found immense useful to transform my mind, my emotion with these books, so you also, you see, if you pay more attention for study, then definitely you also get some benefit. Okay. So then, since 8th century, Tibetan, you see, really start effort. Firstly, translation into Tibetan. Eventually, 300 volumes, 100 volume Buddha's own teaching. Then commentary like Nagarjuna, Arya Asanga, these commentary altogether about 200, more than 200 volumes. So altogether 300 volumes. So among these commentary, the 8th century, Shandadeva, Nalanda master, now he wrote this Buddhist Acharya Avatara, is in this book. I received oral transmission from late Kunu Lama.
Kinori Lama.
Wonderful. So he once told me, while I received, you see, oral transmission, he told me, this book, since 8th century, this book remains best book about altruism. He advised me in future you should carry some teaching about this book. So I promise, and meantime, I received this oral transmission, this book, 1967. Since then, my yes, altruism, or infinite altruism. Since then, you see much developed with help of this book. And about wisdom side, Madhyamika Mula Madhyamika Karika. So these books are tremendous help. So my mind transformed like that. So therefore, so since then, I think writers who wrote these spiritual or philosophy, this not necessarily Buddhist philosophy, but a variety of different philosophy, I think among the Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, and Indus Valley civilization, I am I am quite the Chinese 5,000 sort of story history. The book wrote by Chinese scholar and variety of sort of subject, very few. Lao Tzu, and Di Shu the Kongzi. 자, 그저 지금 루기 댄주 소리마다 싫어합니다. 딘데기 떠르고 패질 대인은 싫어 공부를 해. 루기 댄주.
So the writings of the Lao Tzu and these Chinese masters seems to be more or less Nidhi Shastras.
Like that. Then Egyptian civilization, I don't think see much sort of writers in the philosophy in this field. Recently, I asked someone who should carry some research work, how much sort of scholar produced by Egyptian civilization. Then it clearly shows this country, I think, the limitless sort of because of the writers, the writings, the great writer. As Tibetan follower of our dear Guru, a Tibetan case also, 맞아 배에 숭금 그냥 튀그스시도. 더 나머지는 So I think in Tibetan script, I mean Tibetan scholars, last several centuries, I think maybe around 100,000 volumes wrote by Tibetan scholars and practitioners. I think we Tibetan, a small population, I think we wrote, I think we made, I think, greatest contribution regarding Nalanda tradition through writing. So, like that. Then, I think 14th century, one great Tibetan scholar, he expressed Tibet, land of snow, snowland. Nature color is white, bright. But till light of India reached Tibet, Tibet remained dark. Only light of India reached Tibet, then Tibet became bright. It is quite true. So Tibet eventually became so bright. Now the traditional Chela of India now become more scholar than Chela, then Guru. So now we preserve these knowledge, not just a few statues or few temples. Over 20 years or 30 years, rigorous study, some of these scholars. Now they really, I really, you see, proud to introduce one Indian origin, now become good scholar. Loksa level, beja. Kasa
Judu.
Lo Judu 16 years. He studied. Local Indian. He joined one of our monastery. Now he become a good scholar. So, one good example. Then Laos and Kunu, the one you want to Pajita, Kazizuna. I think Ranchik, you also Indian citizen. Himachal, Arunachal, Kaza Himachal. So I think at least Indian citizen, I think at least maybe now a few hundred. So now, and Tibetan, a few thousand. So these are the potential for reviving of ancient Indian knowledge in modern India. So as this morning I briefly mentioned, now time come how to organize for revival, like that. So next year, I think we should, we will have more sort of occasion for serious discussion. And then I'm participate some chancellors who are meeting, about 100 vice chancellors meeting. So therefore, the next year, I think we will have some sort of program. And then, meantime, since latest my commitment is revival of ancient Indian knowledge in modern India, accordingly I express response from Indian, excellent. So I really appreciate. So when I talk these things, the Indian scholars and a young Indian, many you see showing interest. So that gives me more enthusiasm. If your response more sleepy way, then my enthusiasm will disappear. So I really appreciate. Thank you. Takare. Tak kwalisundi program yang kato. Ka. Jungni So now this Shanta Deva's book, as I mentioned earlier, best book regarding how to promote altruism, use reasoning. Excellent book. So people now who already have a copy of this book, please read the 6th chapter, really explaining how to control our anger. Wonderful. Through reasoning, not through prayer. Then the 8th chapter, how to develop altruism. He pointed there how harmful self-centered attitude. Wonderful, wonderful. So whether believer or non-believer, whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist, this 6th chapter and the 8th chapter should study. And then 9th chapter, philosophy, firstly, quite difficult, and secondly, then different views, whether there's Atma or not, whether there's Creator or not, there is something different. more academic level, so not necessary to read. But 6th chapter and 8th chapter, you should read quite often. When the anger fully develop, then try to control is difficult. So irritation, irritation is this source of, basis of anger. Cause, immediate cause or long-term cause of anger, there we must sort of try to reduce. That's the proper way to reduce anger. Okay, like that. So therefore, this book, very useful. So I think now, this morning, so that's my main sort of introduction of Buddha Dharma or Tibetan Lamaism. Previously, some scholars described Tibetan Buddhism whether true Buddhism or not. Therefore, they give the name of Lamaism. So we Tibetan Lama also, you see, I think indirectly accepted that, or Lama, very important. Suppose Dalai Lama is one of the, I think, high Lama. So I'm very, very critical about the Lama institution. So I myself, since I think in '69, one of my formal statement, I stated, I said, the very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to Tibetan people. Then 2001, we already achieved elected political leadership. Since then, my position is a semi-retired position. And then 2011, I totally retired. Now, no longer any sort of political responsibility like that. So I really feel some sort of critical view about some of the past, the religious institution. It's actually, I think, a very close connection with feudal system. So feudal system gone. I think because of religious institutions, some connection with the feudal system, French Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution, you see, some sort of against religion. Not religion. Who can against religion? Religion is practice of compassion, forgiveness, even animal appreciate. No human being can against that. But religious institution, rotten institution, use the name of religion and exploit people, and particularly blind faith people, easily sort of manipulate. So therefore, these religious institutions, including Dalai Lama institution, some connection with the feudal system. Now, we are now democratic system. Future of world is democratic system. The kings, queens, and high lamas, no future. It's much better. I always telling, there is no Buddha's institution. There is no Nagarjuna's institution. So Lama institution, I think we Tibetan invented. Now that time come, and like that. So the proper way, preservation of Buddha Dharma is study, serious study, at least 10, 20, 30 years. That's the proper way, like that. Okay, 가르쳐서 어떻게 돼? So I think you may heard the story in Kasa, Haryana, that a Mahaguru now put in prison. Follower, I think several 100,000 follower. So even some clash with the police also happened. So this clearly shows religious institution become exploiter. So it is really worthwhile. During French Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution, if I was there, I will join proudly. As far as socio-economic theory is concerned, I'm Marxist, truly. But meantime, I'm not Leninist, because Lenin spoiled, I think, the pure Marxist sort of the theory or belief. That also we can't blame. When Russian Bolshevik Revolution start, because there is civil war, and also Western world some negative. So therefore, Lenin's mind very much wartime mentality. So he, I think, too much centralized and secrecy and ruthless, wartime relevant, but that become part of Marxism. I think he spoiled Marxism. Then Stalin, then Mao Zedong also. Early part maybe genuine Marxist. Then later, because of too much power and totalitarian, like that. So, okay, that's the introduction about Buddhism in general, and particularly Tibetan Buddhist tradition, truly the holder of Nalanda tradition. That tradition is very, very scientific. Last 30 years, I have serious discussion with modern scientists, many of them non-believer. When we discuss, we also learned very useful information about material things or the galaxies, these things, very useful information. But as far as sort of the subtle level of reality, they are very superficial. And then particularly consciousness. I often use it telling Western psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology, then Western psychology, modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. The Indian psychology, ancient Indian psychology, highly developed. Then modern Indian psychology may be kindergarten. So you must pay more attention for revival of ancient Indian knowledge. Okay. So now lunch. Marbe. So up to now, we are taking care about our brain, about mind. Now time come taking care about our stomach. Thank you. See you again tomorrow. So afternoon, with our scholars, more soru kasu ka, more the discussion. These scholars, really top scholar, so very good. I think some sort of detailed explanation about Buddhist philosophy, these things, I think their knowledge is much better than me. But since my mind is quite sharp, I think I can say sharper than these scholars. Because my experience, you see, met a lot of scholars, a lot of scientists, a lot of different people. So, according to my own experience, I think
Conclusion. To summarize, conclude.
Summarize, and with some knowledge about sort of different way of thinking, I think my brain is better than these scholars.